Manchester United breathing a huge sigh of relief, and of course Ruben Amorim as well after that 3-2 win over Burnley. Here he is speaking after the game.
The important thing is that we were, if you take Wednesday, we were more consistent in the performance compared to last year. That is a good thing. But I'm not thinking about turning point. I had this conversation with you guys like 10 times. So I'm not. It's day by day. I'm happy. We return, sometimes playing well or not so well. We return a little bit the team that we should be. Competitive, creating chances. We need to score. Sometimes we block the opponent in their half. We press really high. So we have a lot to do, but we return a little bit to our level today.
Okay, so there we go. Manchester United getting the win that they need. Frank's still with us, but let me go to you, Shaq. What does this mean for Amorim now?
Well, job done, first of all. But let me see. I'll also start exactly as I'll finish. It was Burnley. It was Burnley. Manchester United's only task was to beat Burnley today. It didn't matter what else happened. As long as Manchester United won, that was job done. And there are a lot of positives you can take from it. We're not talking about the goalkeepers, probably the first time this season. And Moreno gets his first goal for Manchester United. Very well taken goal. Bruno Fernandes has bounced back from was it midweek or last week disappointments. And people leave Old Trafford with a real feeling of buoyancy to the point where there are discussions as to whether to turn the corner.
Huh?
Which brings me back to my opening point. It was Burnley. So you take the positives just because there have been so few this season. And you could argue that 3 days ago was as low as we've seen and spoken about Manchester United. So you get the 3 points, you get a win, people are feeling good. All of a sudden, the 2 weeks now, given the international break, feels a whole lot different than had it been 2-2. But again, it was Burnley.
But a win is a win, Frank, and we could see with Bruno Fernandes' celebration that was a huge relief for him and the team.
Yeah, that was a huge relief, and he was right to appreciate the moment. But I think the job is done because somebody from Burnley decided to make the most stupid mistake at the 97 minutes of the game. Otherwise, it would have been a draw, and it would have been a drama a minute after in the dressing room. I appreciate that you got the 3 points, but you're far from being out of the issues, the problems, what have been maybe the misery of your game, because that's still not that good. And as Shaka said, it was against Burnley.
Yeah, so to the point that Shaka and Frank are making, that it was Burnley, what I would say to both of them is that a few days ago, it was Grimsby. it was Grimsby.
Yeah.
So any game and every game right now is difficult for Manchester United. And one of the initial points you made there, Shaka, is that they just needed to win.
Yeah.
And so, look, if you're Manchester United, you really don't care who you're playing against as long as somehow you manage to scrape a win. And they needed to do that today. And what I would say about Manchester United today, different than other days, is that at the very least you saw a team that was pressing the ball, that was playing with energy, that was playing with intensity. It doesn't mean that it was a good team. It doesn't mean that it was a good performance. It doesn't mean that they've turned their corner. But you would have thought that with the lack of confidence that this group has, then maybe they would be hesitant in the way that they played. And that wasn't the case today. You can say a lot of things about Manchester United, but today, at the very least, they were competing. And they were together in trying to compete and in trying to win the game. And the other thing I would say is, I want to applaud the Manchester United fans at Old Trafford. You all have been subjected to some nonsense over the last few years. And I mean, it's been terrible. And somehow you continue to believe that this team is going to give you joy and happiness. Because over 90 minutes plus, this stadium jumping. I mean, all over Burnley and all over these players to try to somehow squeeze a win out of this. So I think the fans themselves understand how difficult it is for this team to win one game. One game. And that, if I'm Ruben Amorim, all I'm thinking, and it's something that he addressed there in the press conference, I'm thinking about doing one thing. It's just winning today. We cannot project what this team is going to be because winning one game is so stressful for this club right now.
Also, let me just add, and while I focus on a lot of the positives for Manchester United coming out today, and I'm sure Ruben Amorim and this Manchester United dressing room will do exactly the same for the next 2 weeks. When they come back off of international break, I think you see some of the same issues in the game today that we discussed in the game against Fulham, the last league game against Fulham. In that, from the time Manchester United take a lead, they do not at all look comfortable. They did not against Fulham when they went 1-0 up. They did not today against Burnley. To their credit, they held out for, 20 or 30 minutes. Then all of a sudden, Burnley gets an equalizer. But again, to Manchester United's credit, they go straight up the end virtually and get themselves back in front. 2 minutes later, Burnley had the ball in the back of the net, albeit disallowed. 7 minutes after that, Burnley equalized. And then it's at the last kick that Manchester United get the winner. Manchester United, in their last 2 games against Fulham and Burnley, when taking the lead, have looked like they have no idea what to do with that lead. And had Bruno Fernandes scored that penalty in the 85th, I'm not sure they'd hold out. Because they just lack such confidence in themselves. The other thing I want to say, right? And I have a little... go ahead.
No, I'm just saying that you started positive, but then it became negative.
Yeah, but no, well...
It became negative.
We have to think of the positive, but then you have to address the negative, right? I've got a little bone to pick here. Cunha goes down injured. Xerxes comes on. What happened to Sesko?
What?
Well, you turned down Newcastle to do that?
What?
Wow.
That's it?
Yeah.
That was your bone to pick?
I'm a bone to pick it with Sesko.
Hey, there's a lot more wrong with Newcastle than that.
Let me tell you something.
These guys will be answering your questions on the latest edition of Extra Time. You can check it out over on our YouTube channel.